From 7 News, this is a Call 7 Investigators special presentation.
Why don't you just talk to me about it?
A board of directors appointed by the governor.
Is it an independent board?
Very independent.
You don't turn that off.
A culture of luxury, perks, and incentives.
Was the Pinnacle Group here earlier?
It sure was. Wine tasting, toured the vineyard, and they had a great time.
Should the board members resign?
I think they should.
The 2-year Call 7 investigation, uncovering the costs of a cozy relationship.
Actually gonna go to the board and think they ought to give me a raise.
Hidden cameras capturing a $300,000 junket to Pebble Beach.
Here's another Pinnacle.
A CEO exploding under fire.
Please don't push me. Please don't push me.
And for the first time,
When we left Pebble Beach, what were your thoughts?
the CEO explains what went wrong.
I'm not a gentleman. I actually look at it as an opportunity to clear the air.
Exposing a conflict of interest, a board of directors bought and paid for, and a governor forced to take action.
Your work here resulted in a material improvement for the state of Colorado.
How do you think that the legislature is going to look at this?
It was a tipping point, and Channel 7 News brought that out.
Tonight, the complete Call 7 investigation, a courtroom challenge, and the change that followed.
Hello, I'm Tony Kowaleski. It's been a long road, and at times it appeared nothing would change. 7 News aired more than 36 stories questioning a culture inside Pinnacle Assurance, uncovering a conflict of interest hidden for years behind boardroom doors and at some of the most exclusive resorts in our country. A conflict considered business as usual until an overcast day near the 18th green at Pebble Beach.
Are they doing oversight for the state when you're paying for them?
Don't you get in the way of a private affair. It has nothing to do with you.
So what led to this moment? How did we get here?
You don't turn that off.
You have to go back to 2009.
You cannot transfer private assets to the state to balance the budget.
A battle raged in Colorado over an $800 million budget shortfall.
This is the only real solution.
Some lawmakers believe they had found the answer, the money, inside this building. 90 years ago, the state created an agency to provide workers' compensation insurance for Colorado businesses that private insurers refused to cover. Decades later, the concept was failing financially. Lawmakers moved to partially privatize the agency. Pinnacle Assurance was born.
It's the state law that creates a unique company to serve Colorado business.
Now, a quasi-government agency, Pinnacle Assurance receives significant tax breaks and state pension benefits for its executives and employees. It's amassed an impressive $700 million surplus, a success story that we discovered produced an opulent lifestyle inside the company.
Huge play.
They spent $143,000 for a luxury suite at Invesco Field, with some tickets given to board members and their families. We found $2,500 spent on a single dinner at one of Denver's priciest restaurants, including lobster at $144 a plate and 3 $115 bottles of wine. A story and spending that outraged state lawmakers.
When you're a company that has more money than you know what to do with, you spend it on things that you probably shouldn't be spending it on.
Your bonus, $131,000, 44% of your pay. Fair?
Too low.
Too low.
Too low for what I do.
CEO Ken Ross received $429,000 in salary and bonuses in 2008.
Will you roll it back at all so you're not making as much money? So you're...
That's fine. I'm actually going to go to the board and, after what I went through the last 2 months, think they ought to give me a raise.
More money.
More money for what I do would be certainly in order.
And our review of Pinnacle's spending found big-ticket travel and entertainment. The company spent $133,000 hosting clients at the exclusive Four Seasons Resort in Scottsdale, $109,000 at an island resort in South Carolina, and this, a night on the town in New York City, including top-shelf liquor, 8 people, 1 hour, 21 drinks.
It wasn't a booze fest. It was a team-building event, and it was certainly appropriate.
And another $25 grand for an event called the Ritzy Girls.
$25,000, 2 nights at the Ritz-Carlton.
Correct.
What was that about?
We decided that we ought to recognize the female agents.
An event CEO Ken Ross did not attend, but the guest list did include Amy Gibson Ross.
Who is Amy Gibson Ross?
And that's my wife.
She an agent?
No.
She was on that trip?
Yes.
Pinnacle paid for it?
Correct.
Is that right?
Oh, absolutely.
Ultimately, 7 News uncovered a culture of lavish spending that included friends, family, and members of the governor's appointed board of directors. Now, while lawmakers backed away from raiding Pinnacle's surplus, some rank-and-file employees became outraged by the cozy relationship between company executives and the board tasked with oversight. A few months later, employees reached out to 7 News with a simple message: you need to go to Pebble Beach. So fast forward now, a year from our original investigation. Big bonuses, exclusive resorts, and big-ticket dining remained a regular part of the company's culture. 7 News continued to investigate the close relationship between the governor-appointed board and the high-paid executive team. A conflict of interest that came to light with bagpipes playing at Pebble Beach.
Point your finger at me again, I'm going to break it. You get it?
Are you threatening to hit me?
That's reaction by Pinnacle's chief executive officer.
Sir, how do you think the taxpayers of Colorado...
Get out of my face.
Just moments after learning 7 News was in Pebble Beach. Hidden cameras capturing a junket for top executives, family, friends, sales agents, and 3 board members.
Pebble Beach has long been known for its legendary links and breathtaking natural beauty.
5 nights at one of the nation's most exclusive golf resorts.
So rooms range from $695 usually to about $965 to the ocean.
Cocktail parties and high-end restaurants. 4 days of golf at courses on the exclusive Monterey Peninsula.
7 courses. Okay. All billed on the master account?
Yes, sir.
7 News confirmed 28 golfers with tee times at Pebble Beach. $495 green fees per golfer, plus charges for caddies.
Gary Johnson, what time does Mr. Johnson tee off?
12 noon. And then we have Mark and Deborah Lovejoy with them.
We found board chairman Gary Johnson and his wife on the golf course. They were joined by the board's ethics chair, Deborah Lovejoy, and her husband. Also on the course, board member Ryan Hettich and CEO Ken Ross. And while that group was golfing,
Carmel Valley wine for 10:15 to 4:30.
Others on the 5-day trip were riding through Monterey's exclusive wine country. Was the Pinnacle group here earlier?
It sure was. Wine tasting, toured the vineyard and the barrel room and the production area, and they had a great time.
What's your reaction to what you've just watched?
But when you realize that this is really, they're stewards of the public money, this is a quasi-public governmental entity we're talking about here, I think it's ridiculous.
Prior to the trip, State Senator Morgan Carroll chaired a committee reviewing Pinnacle's business practices.
The board is supposed to be the oversight, the check and balance. It is uncomfortable to me that there is a large amount of whining and dining.
And that's really the heart of this issue. A governor-appointed board responsible for oversight, but the only oversight we witnessed at Pebble Beach was on their golf shots. Ethics Chair Deborah Lovejoy looking in the rough for a lost ball. Board member Ryan Hettich looking for the next tee box. And board chair Gary Johnson not questioning costs, instead trying to find his way to the green.
How's payment being handled for the Pinnacle group?
For the Pinnacle group, it's on a master account. They're covering it on their master account.
What's that mean?
It means they put all the fees on one bill for Pinnacle.
Okay, so nobody's paying separately?
Correct.
It raised new questions about the independence of board members.
You're the chairman of the board. Is it an independent board?
Very independent.
Board Chair Gary Johnson answered questions just a few months before he and his wife accepted the all-expense-paid trip to Pebble Beach.
If this kind of culture were not to the board's expectations, you have the power to say, Mr. Ross, this needs to stop.
That's correct. We do.
And you haven't.
And a year later, we had more questions after his round of golf.
Mr. Johnson? Tony Kovaleski from 7 News.
Hey, Tony, good to see you.
How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
What do you think the governor's going to think about you taking this kind of golf with you and your wife? And
before Gary Johnson could answer that question,
This is a private affair. Do you have any courtesy in your life?
I'm talking to Mr. Johnson,
I'm talking to you.
Pinnacle CEO Ken Ross stepped in.
Why did your employees let us know that you were here? Why are your employees outraged,
And
sir?
moments later, watch as Gary Johnson steps out.
I'm here to talk to you about spending a lot of money on a trip, and your board members appointed by the governor. Please don't push me. Please don't push me. Please don't push me. Is the state of Colorado being served by this trip, sir? When your board members are here, $1,000 for husband and wife to play golf? Why don't you just talk to me about it? Why don't you talk to me about it? Explain it to me, that's all.
And if he reacts like this when you question him, how do you think he's going to act when his board or his employees question these practices?
When we returned to Colorado, 7 News requested interviews with the 3 board members. Pinnacle responded, quote, "We will not be making these individuals available for an interview," end quote, raising even more questions about the board's so-called independence.
Should the board members resign if they were on this trip?
I think they should.
Other lawmakers joined in pressuring the 3 board members, but none resigned. When 7 News asked Pinnacle to provide all the detailed receipts from the trip, the executive team refused. Instead, Pinnacle took 7 News to court, asking a judge to seal the records, a request to permanently hide the cost of Pebble Beach.
I find that the records sought here are clearly, with little doubt in my mind, public records.
The case read Pinnacle Assurance versus KMGH-TV, a 7-month court battle and more than $100,000 in legal fees. Judge Morris B. Hoffman determined the public had a right to know what Pinnacle paid for the junket to Pebble Beach. His ruling forced Pinnacle to turn over thousands of receipts to 7 News.
It's just because this information is embarrassing to them. That's the conclusion I draw.
The record showed why Pinnacle fought to keep them private. The 5-day junket totaled $318,000, $53,000 in charges at golf courses and the Pebble Beach Spa. One meal that cost $19,000, including 13 $120 bottles of wine. The tab for the 3 board members easily exceeded $20,000. The bill for CEO Ken Ross and his family was nearly $9,000.
The tab totaled more than $318,000.
It's just disgusting.
With public pressure mounting, Colorado's newly elected governor was forced to take action.
The big message in Bright Lights was we're not going to tolerate misbehavior of any form.
Governor John Hickenlooper set in motion a plan that imploded Pinnacle's culture of excess, ending an era of perks, junkets, and the cozy relationship between a board and its chief executive.
Are you confident Pinnacle and Pebble Beach won't happen again in the future?
Yes.
For the first time since returning from Pebble Beach, CEO Ken Ross explains his decisions and what went wrong.